and devastating for his players too. Manchester City are out, and it's Lyon that go through to the semi-final to face Bayern Munich. And boy, are they happy about it. And that's how it looks. It's Germany against France in the two semi-finals. Leipzig play Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday, and then it's Lyon-Bayern on Wednesday, and both those games, of course, will be exclusively live here on BT Sport. Can't do it, can they?
No, it's been a cruel competition to them in recent years, and today was no different. And we see the second goal was I mean, yeah. We spoke about kamikaze defending yesterday. Today, again, we spoke about the one in the first half that City conceded. This one's even worse because it's so much more glaring. The ball turns over. Once that ball turns over, Garcia, who's the last man, he's the only defender in his half. He immediately feels he needs to engage with Dembele there. And the moment he does that, that gives these guys the impetus to start making runs forward and getting into the City half. He goes and engages. Once he makes that decision to go, then it's all about being a foot race. And you see as I play it there, right now, there's not one player in City's half. Look at all this space, come on. Imagine you playing in that against that.
That's like dream about playing against defenders that do that. It's and like a striker's dream.
And for a defender to evacuate that space and allow there to then be a foot race and to say, right, look on, if you play it in there, you've got a chance to get in there. There's no security kind of thinking at all.
Amateurish.
Exactly. And then you see the ball goes through. And we can discuss whether it's a foul or not, but it shouldn't get to this point. It shouldn't get there. If Garcia stays in his position, he sees that out. The ball probably doesn't even get played straight through there. You, Joe, if you want to talk about whether you think that's a foul or not, disgraceful defending.
Well, let's have a look at it. VAR had a look at it for quite some time, and they decided that it obviously wasn't a clear and obvious mistake in their view. But I mean, it's as Peter Walton said in the commentary, he thought it was obviously massively influential in the goal.
Yeah, well, it's not intentional. I think that's clear.
No, but if
there's definitely
we've seen penalties given for that all the time by VAR in the box when a player goes down and he's accidentally tripped like that. But they give that generally nowadays. That's in the modern game. So surely it should have been a foul.
So does it then go with the referee's decision? Is he saying he saw it?
Well, they're obviously not thought it was a clear and obvious error, which you can understand. But there's no consistency, is there, with VAR? It's good to see that there is equally inconsistent with it in Europe as they are in the Premier League.
I've got to say, if I'm on that pitch, I think that's a definite foul. It's got to be.
Yeah.
They've connected there.
And he's the one who's gone on to score.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's have another look, because and this is important, because obviously the game was balanced at that point.
Well,
it's 1-1 for all the bad defending.
Joe's right. City were dominating at that
point. There's the contact there on his foot.
100% contact.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they can't call that. And there's going to be people saying conspiracy theories now if you're a City fan, etc.
Well, of course.
But I believe that's a foul there. And the man goes on to score the goal as well. I mean, Dembele, we've not even spoke about him yet, but he was someone who's 22 goals and then sub. Top goal scorer in their team and then sub, and then comes on and does that. Two goals. Yeah. Phenomenal.
It really was. Between the two goals, though, City should have pulled it back. I mean, Raheem Sterling, who was probably City's best player, along with probably De Bruyne in the second half.
Well, what he'd done for the goal, his movement was fantastic. But even here, this is where we've seen him countless times this season, in between the sticks, making runs, elusive. But here, I mean, Gary, how do you miss that? You tell me, you're a striker.
No, I'll tell you why he missed it, because he's tried to hit it too hard. When you're in that position there where you know you've got an open goal, the only way you can miss it is putting your foot through it. And if there is a slight bobble, there is a chance that it will go over the bar. All you've got to do is let it hit your foot, take your weight off it.
Stab it,
like almost just a little stab. Just keep your knee over the ball and then it can't go up. You can mishit it, miscue it, and it'll still go in. It's almost like he's trying to hit it with a little bit of force. There's obviously been a little bit of a lift of the ball, little bobble, and then it's missable.
Wow.
But if you just take the weight off it, you can't miss. But
and if you're going to put your money on anyone to score,
I know.
It's him. He's the man you put your money on.
It does jump up off the ground fractionally, so that's why.
Do you think the covering defender kind of got in his head a little bit, and he saw him potentially making a big block, and he thought, I have to bury this?
He looked like he was in the perfect position to hit it, but he's going to not sleep very well tonight.
He won't.
Raheem Sterling. But then 3-1. Well, it's just less than a minute after that chance. They went at the other end, and this time, Joe, I know you're goalkeepers union, but this is a howler, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the situation of the game. You know, if this is a good shot, a well-struck shot that he doesn't have to think about, he saves it. But I think he's already thrown it out. He's already kicking it. You know, it's
concentration. Do you think?
It's desperation, and you know, obviously, you know, you speak to Edison, he's going to tell you he should do better, but it's the situation of the game. And City at 1-1, we all thought, here we go, you know, made the change. Riyad came on, City looked really good, and then they're flustered. They're flustered with the way they gave away the second, and this is just the whole team's head's gone here.
I'll tell you what. Sorry, I'll tell you one thing. Every single game we've watched this week, this round of football, this new format of one game, the substitutes have had impact. Yeah. It's so important now, and now more than ever it seems that the squad, the depth in your squad on that bench is of huge importance.
Therefore, that leads to an obvious question. What about Pep's substitution? He only brought Mahrez on really to change things, and these little geniuses or the playmakers, he left a lot of them on the sidelines. He played a negative game in terms of how he normally plays this evening, certainly in his starting lineup. Did he mess it up tonight?
I think he's going to have to have a look at himself in terms of his team selection, yes, and the way he changed his formation. I mean, even, for instance, Cancelo playing left-back, how many times the ball came out there and he came back on his right foot? And getting behind teams is what Pep's about. Overloads in wide areas and getting behind teams. And in them areas behind the two wing-backs, were perfect opportunities probably to get behind it, but you need creative players to draw people out, create space for runners to then get in, and they didn't do it enough this game, definitely.
We'll talk about that in greater detail shortly, but first let's hear from Kevin De Bruyne. He's with Des Kelly.
Kevin, that's heartbreaking tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different year, same stuff. I think first half wasn't good enough. I think we know that. We started slow. We had not many options, but I think second half we played really, really well. We come back 1-1. We had a couple of chances, and then obviously, the 2-1 and the 3-1 ends the game. And it's a shame for us to go in that way.
The 2-1 is important because VAR didn't give offside, but it also didn't give a foul on the Port. Have you had a chance to talk about it? What's the reaction?
I have no idea. I've not seen it back. So whatever they decide, You know, I'm not gonna blame that. I think we should have done better, but I have to look back to see whatever it was.
Is it all the more painful because you got back on terms and you'd started to play like Manchester City we expected?
Well, I think the second half we played well. I think we had them under pressure. We played more offensive like we normally do, and I think we had them. And their keeper made a few saves, and even at a 2-1, you know, if Res scores the goal, it's 2-2, and the game goes on. But that's football. It's that fine margins that made the difference, and they made the 3-1, and you know it's over.
Yeah, that late miss, and then to go straight down the other end. 59 seconds later, the game's finished. I mean, that's the cruelty of this competition, because the game was opening up there. You were chasing it.
The game was open, but I think they didn't really create, except the 2 goals, the chances. But yeah, we need to learn, man. It's not good enough, and that's it.
They're the kind of side that you knew if they took the lead, they'd just sit and soak it up, like they did against Juventus. Did you need to create more, put them under pressure more?
Well, I think first half, yes. I think second half we created enough to score enough goals. So you know, is that difference of scoring and not scoring that makes it, and we didn't do enough today.
All you can do is go again next year.
Well, it's time to go home. It's been a long season. I need to go back home because my wife is expecting any moment, so I've got something to focus on personally, but yeah, it's hard.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, good luck to him and his wife for the newborn coming. Interesting there, he said himself, the first half we weren't very good. We should be more offensive normally and play like we normally do. And that's very true, isn't it? They weren't their normal selves. They had a different lineup, a slightly negative lineup.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
That might have been brought on from previous games at this stage. They've come a cropper at this stage the last couple of years. So maybe Pep's thought about that and thought, I need to be maybe a bit more conservative, not as expansive. But you see that there's frustration there in an interview. And I'm sure you know what you're like when you're a player in a change room and you don't see the names on a team sheet that you expect to see or that you're accustomed to always seeing. It does send a little bit
Have you had that?
It did. We had it against Bayern Munich. And I mean, Darren Gibson won't thank me for saying it, but it was a young player and not one of the players that you expected to play in that game. He starts the game and everyone's looking around like, whoa, to be fair, he went out and scored a goal, but we didn't get through in the end, I don't think. But it's more about when you watch that team today and we talk about Man City and we give them the credit and we sit here and we speak, oh, how good they were, etc. It's always about the offensive side of the game and about the imagination, about the creativity. All of that was on the bench today. And then Mahrez, other than Kevin De Bruyne, but then Mahrez comes on and the whole look of the game changes from Man City's point of view.
If you're a Lyon player and you get the team sheet
delighted,
an hour before, I was going to say, and you go, wow, neither of Silva's, no Mahrez, no Foden. No, they've got great players all the way, and a different kind of system that they don't normally play.
Sorry, Joe. As a defender, I see the name, no disrespect to anyone on there, but I'm sitting there and going, well, I know I've got a really good idea of what Raheem does because he likes to run in behind. I've got a good idea of what Jesus was. He wants the ball to just in behind around the corners to feet. I can really pick at the players other than Kevin De Bruyne and say, I've got an idea of what they're doing. The players that give you a bit of nerves as well, the players that are a little bit unpredictable, that in the two Silvas, Mahrez, Foden, that unpredictability brings a little bit of nervousness, and actually I've got to take a step back maybe. I didn't see that in the first team that I saw out there enough.
Totally. I mean, you know him, obviously. He does outthink himself sometimes, I think. I mean, genius though he obviously is in many ways in the coaching aspect, and he's unbelievably successful. But I've played with coaches too. Like Cruyff was very similar in the sense that sometimes you used to think, is he doing this just to maybe look good if it works?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Obviously, you know, whatever we're going to say about him, he backs a lot of what he does up with medals. That's what City want. That's what City brought him in for. It was to win the Champions League, and it's not easy, you know.
No, it's not. It's a knockout competition.
You've done it. You've done it. Sorry, it's really not an easy thing to do. And I just think tonight, like we say, maybe tried to go too far. We're thinking about being too conservative. I think the point about Cancelo and Mendy, I just think Lyon was so compact and so heavy and strong in the middle, and the guys like Dene, they defended really well. It needed a different approach, and it was probably too late when it came.
Perhaps we should give Lyon more credit.
I think they definitely deserve huge credit.
They deserve massive.
They were really proud of what they did.
Okay, let's take a breather. After that breather, we'll hope to hear from.